Alright, so let's move on to the arms. Let's have a look and see where we're at. So I think there's a few things we need to do on the arms. So first, let's go through them one by one, is the fact that when they launch, they both leave the knees at the same time. It'd be nice if one was leading the other so that we're not getting twinning. It's just nice to have offset motion so they're not both moving at the same time. Secondly, you can see we've got some broken arm poses in there. We've got some overextended arms. I've got some wrists that feel a bit broken. Easy fixes in there. Maybe we'll add a bit of a tighter feeling on the tuck at the top here. We're going to clean up some arm poses through there. We're going to avoid it going in front of the head too much when we come down. I'm going to check the reference, see what's going on. We need to get a harder hit on the fist and fix some intersections in the leg through here. And then lastly, we need to work on the arm that pops back and make that feel nice and solid. Remember, we spent some time doing various iterations of the reference so that we could get a nice arm snap in there, which we don't have yet, so we're going to work on that and make sure that's all looking cool. Alright, so let's go and fix up the arms. Okay, so let's have a look in perspective view and go and grab hold of those arms. Turn on Neb's curves. I'm going to start and just get our bearings and see where we have these things. Okay, so I think the first thing to do is have a look at fixing up these stretched poses, overstretched poses. So I'm just going to grab that and actually let's just have a look at what's in our reference. So we've got it quite bent there, but you know, we did want to have our arms lead the action a bit, so we'll still have them a little bent, but definitely have the feeling that they are leading the motion. He's using his arms to get some what's the word, impetus, to get some power out of the jump to help him launch up into the air. So I'll just work on this arm here, his right arm. I've got some dodgy curves here that I'll just flatten for the beginning. It's better, so we don't get that drifting stuff that we've got going on. So I want that arm to just launch up. Just make sure that that wrist is in line with the forearm, just so it feels a bit stronger. And then we have it so it comes down and tucks in. And this is an important area, because at the moment it drifts down. It doesn't quite feel like he's pulling his arm in towards his body. So let's improve the way it gets into that tuck position and make it feel like it's coming from it's moving from his shoulder. So all of the action of the arm should come from the shoulder, whereas at the moment here it's not quite, it's a bit linear. So I think that we need to add in an extra breakdown on 52, just straighten that out. And I'm just checking the arc of the action so that we get a nicer, slightly curved path of action on the hand itself. And it comes in and let's make it so it gets nice and tight in here, through here, that we've just lost that feeling of tightness. It's starting to drift down, so I'm just going to pull it up. Oops. Let's check the camera view. There we go. So we're starting to get that nice tight ball feeling up at the top here. So as the arm does go up, I notice that the wrist again just Just going to straighten it out just so it feels a bit like he's punching the air to get up into the air. So his arm launches up and then comes back into this tight ball, which just feels more dynamic. You're just aiming to get some more contrast out of that stretch here into the squash. Just pull that in even more. Oops, just make sure I'm on the frame I want it to be on. That looks pretty good. And then what happens then? We start to come down. I like in the reference how the arm moves from the top to the bottom, and we splice two clips together, so you can see here the screen left arm, my right arm does change position, but I quite like the fact that it does that. It just gives it a bit of interest rather than just staying straight as it comes down. So I think I want to use that as we come down. So we straighten out a bit, and let's just check in perspective, because that does look like it's probably overstretched, which it is. So let's pull it up. Let's check in the perspective view while we do that. Sorry, in the camera view while we do that as well. Yeah, and then it lifts slightly, which I think is cool. It just gives it a bit of, like I say, a bit of interest during the move, and something that you probably wouldn't add if you hadn't done reference and spliced two clips together. But I just feel like it's a bit of something that's slightly different from what you would do if you hadn't shot that. So now we get to the part where we want to make sure that we slam into the ground. So it's coming down a bit soft now. You see, it takes from frame 66 to 69 to get into position. We want that to happen much quicker. So it feels as though it could probably hit on frame 67. We've got enough room to get it there. So let's do the middle mouse copy from 69 to 67. Boom, and then we're straight in there. We've got some intersection with the leg, but we will fix that. But you can feel it gets much more impressive. Feels more solid, like a big heavy weight. Dumph, smashes to the ground. You can almost imagine the ground cracking or bits of rock coming up to really make that impact feel stronger. Bit of camera shake, that kind of thing. Let's have a look at fixing the intersection on the leg. So something else would be good to add as the arm comes down. Let's have a reaction in the shoulder. So the hand hits here. Let's have the shoulder rise up as it impacts the ground. It's gone a bit too far there, so I'll just zero that. No, not there. Pull it down here. So we get a slight bend, and then we feel that shoulder start to kick in. And it's going to feel much more physical. Shoulders can be easily overlooked, but they're really important to show physicality and to show emotion and acting. But here we're going to use them to make it feel as though the body is taking the weight and the arm is locking slightly to carry the weight of our adventurer. Now, in order to get that hand away from this leg, I think we might have to move it into the right. So let's have a look in the graph editor and just go to the translate X, and here we go. We can see it was moving in here, but then suddenly it moves back out. So I'm going to just grab these and move those in, which also has the benefit of just giving him more of the classic 3-point landing. So having 3 points of contact and they're a bit more evenly spread to carry the weight. It's, you know, it's more of a triangle rather than, well, I mean, I guess it's always going to be a triangle, but it's nice to have these 3 posts that are supporting the weight above. And it also means that our arm doesn't intersect our leg. Does look like it's slightly far back in our camera view, so I think I'll just look at the translate Z as well, and then there we go, just move it slightly further forward, just under his head. There we go, that feels better. It just felt a little a bit far back, like it made him feel a little off balance, so just moving that forward gives him a nice solid base to land on. So how's that arm feeling? Already feeling a lot better. So just by cleaning up some poses at the top here, getting it crunched into the body, having a look at these poses as we come down to the ground, and then getting down to the ground sooner. Although I just noticed now as I scrub through, I think that here we could do with having this just start to point down. That's better. And then point down maybe even more. Just aiming a bit truer to where we're going. Boom. Let's move on to his left arm. We've got the right arm punching up. I think if we just make our left arm just drag a little bit behind, so it's not lifting at the exact same rate. So we can do that quite simply at the beginning, and just, let's put these on flat so we don't get all this wavering. We can do that just by slipping the start frame by a frame, so I'm just moving it a frame later. That was just by holding shift and middle mouse dragging to the right. So there we go, we've got a bit of an offset now, so that the right arm leads the left. And again, just that idea of not everything moving at the same time. I know it does in the reference, so it would be valid to do it, but I guess in the reference you can see actually it's the other arm that's slightly leading. So I'm just pushing that idea of one arm leading another arm, just to exaggerate that, and it will just give it more interest and more appeal. So let's do a similar thing to this arm. So we've got some of that broken wrist through here. And I think we want it to just launch up a bit sooner. So we've started later, but then it's going to catch up and give us that feeling. Oh, what's going on there? Let's have a look. Feels a bit broken, doesn't it? Let's just play with the elbow slightly. Just check what the shoulder is doing. I'll just zero it. Ooh. Zero it, and then I'm just going to move it forward, rotate it around, so that the shoulder is involved in the action. And then I know I'm covering the face slightly here, but I think it's okay, because I think we want to feel those arms launch him up. And then as they go up, they're going to pull back into that tuck. And again, we're just going to pull it close to his chest. While I'm here, actually, let's grab this and just pull this in. And let's do that again, just to I'm just going to pull it in just so we get more of the feeling of just going with that concept of him tucking into as much of a ball shape as we can. Although, I mean, we could go further. I'm not completely squashing him up, as you might do if it was really cartoony piece of animation, but I'm doing it enough that it's exaggerated from what the reference tells us, but not so much that he feels like he's made of rubber or jelly. And then the arm is going to start to fall with our body. Let's pull that down slightly. Again, check in perspective, see where we're actually moving it. And that's also showing me that this feels a bit broken. And then I like, again, as we come down, something cool in the reference that we should definitely keep is that this arm raises up. So let's keep that in there. I'm just going to try and avoid the face a little, like so. And here, just continue that action. Let's try raising the shoulder, the elbow up, so the elbow rises as the body falls. Oh, what's going on there? We're breaking a little. And then, so we're going up to the crucial moment. So I'm just thinking through the arm snap. So we've got some dodgy curves here. You can see that in between the keys we've done, the wrist is flipping, and that is what is known as gimbal lock. And you can see the curves here change in value quite a lot, and you've got the rotate X and the rotate Z moving in opposite directions. And that will be because if I look at our axes in gimbal, you can see that we essentially lose an axis here because there are two right on top of each other. So Maya is doing what it thinks it should, and it's because we've got these values going from 93 to 342 over a short space of time. That line has to join that way, and a similar thing on the rotate Z, and it just means that you're going to get some dodgy flipping in your animation. Luckily, they've created a tool to fix that. If you go to curves and then you apply an Euler filter here, it should give you something that is much more like what you're looking for. Although this time it absolutely hasn't, which is quite interesting, which means we're going to have to brute force it. So we're just going to key it on that frame. Tell it exactly where we want it to be. Like I say, in animation it's very rare to get anything for free. Okay, so just check the path of that fist as it comes down, because you want it to arc around this way, which it does, and then we want it to snap back. I'm just looking at the orientation of that hand here. I can see the top of the hand, so I just want to have a look at where it is in space. And this is where I'm going to look at it from above. I've got some more flipping, so let's do another Euler filter. It's still flipping. So it's still flipping, so I'm just going to again give it more information, see if that helps. It's very delicate, isn't it, here? So there are things you could do. You could use secondary controls so that you're only using 2 rotation axes on one control and using an extra control for the 3rd rotation axis. But I often prefer to have everything on one control just for simplicity, but it does mean that I end up having to do things frame by frame like this, but for me it just makes more sense to keep things simple. Okay, so I can see when it's knocking back here, it's quite slow actually moving. It's quite slow when it locks. So I want to make that sharper. So which means I'm going to get over to the right here sooner. But I'm not going to go quite as far as this because you can see it's hyperextending and it's breaking. So it's a good way to look at it from above here. And I'm just using these box axes so that I'm only moving in translate X and translate Z at the moment. I'm just going to have to go frame by frame so that I don't get this pop in the elbow. So again, let's just pull this back so we get slightly straighter on it. And I'm going to copy 78 to 90, just middle mouse. Let's have a look in the camera. So it's starting to feel harder, but it's obviously just locking in the air. If I look at the reference, it's getting to that locked point sooner. It's got more contrast, so let's get some of that in there. Okay. So it looks like 69 was where we wanted to. I'm kind of getting there a bit sooner than the reference. Again, just to exaggerate that moment. Just going to have that wrist overlap a little so that the wrist rotation just carries on after the arm itself has slowed. Delete this key because I've just adjusted 70, so 71 wasn't feeling great because it's moving back over to the right, and then I can move it slightly over to the left and straighten out a touch on 72. Just let that wrist almost ricochet back, so it goes over to the left. It's going to ricochet back and rotate right. And then here we just got it so it's static, so I just want to add a key somewhere in the middle here, just so that it doesn't stay so still and feel so unnatural. It feels quite robotic. So that's starting to feel better. Doesn't quite have that snap yet. I think it's because we don't quite feel that arc. So let's see if I can just going to track it in the camera view a little bit, just bring it down. So I worked in the camera view, and now I'm just checking from above just to make sure the arm is actually feeling like it's moving from the upper part of the arm, which it wasn't, it was just collapsing a little bit. So I'll straighten it out slightly. How's that feeling? So it's feeling better. I'm just not getting that snap at the end, so I think it needs to go up and then it's going to have to come back down just to make it feel as though it reached its peak and ricocheted a little. That's the idea. It's not fantastically well resolved yet because it feels a little bouncy, and I think that's because it is literally bouncing, so it goes up and it comes down and it goes up again. But let's just have a look at the Y so that it doesn't, if we make it so it doesn't go up again, it just settles down. Just looking at that against the reference again. I think that's feeling, we're almost there. It's just, again, that down just feels, I think maybe it could be slightly softer. I'm just going to raise this a little and just make sure our curves, just go through and just tidy some curves up a little. There we go. That's feeling better. So it feels like we've got some snap in there, but it's not so hard that it feels unnatural. It's got some more physicality to it. If you can start to feel some skeleton under there that is locking out, that reaches its natural limit. But his arm's not stuck in space, it's not stuck in one spot like he's got a pin stuck in it and it's stuck in the air. It feels like he's holding his arm up. Okay, good. Now let's just have a look from some other angles, because I think we're getting to a point where I'm pretty happy with that for the moment. That feels pretty good. Got a nice punch into the ground, the arm hits back. Maybe a slight, notice a little pop in the elbow, there it is. So because the hand overextends and then bends again here, it feels, that's what feels slightly unnatural. So I'm just going to add a bit more bend, just a slight bit of bend into the arm. And hope that doesn't break our feeling of snap. Oops, just added a bit more. Okay, good. Just check the camera view again after doing that. Cool, so I feel like we've still got some snap back there. Feels strong. Nice punch into the ground on the right arm. Nice tuck at the top. We've got one arm leading the other on the jump. Cool, I think we can call arms first pass complete. So let's move on. Okay, we are done for the animation pass. You should be feeling pretty proud of yourself if you made it this far. It's not an easy thing to do, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to keep on pushing. Join me in the next section where we'll work on the final stage of the animation, which is the polish pass. So when you're ready, I'll see you there.